Mate, what are the biggest drawbacks and hurdles when it comes to having a band with over 20 members? Like, is there an actual number right now? Is it 26 or something?
No, look, when we're in Melbourne, it can go up to 30 because we don't have to pay for any accommodation, right, or flights. So it's all catering. So it's all about, when we go on the road, depending on where, like when we go to overseas, for example, we take a smaller contingent of like 13 or 14 and pick up other players over there who have already been sent all the songs and the charts and everything. So mainly horn players. But in Australia, it's 21, 22, it's like traveling with a soccer team.
Yeah. It gets me thinking because, in order to plan a tour, say if your band has five members, that's
Yeah.
five people who've all got to get time
Oh,
off work at the same time. And I'm like,
strangely enough, it's easier organising this band because number one, we've got a really good system now. We know everybody, and I've got a great tour manager who knows everybody's dietary requirements, what time they like to fly, who snores, so who can sleep, and all that type of thing, and everybody gets that it's a kind of unique, left of centre, doesn't work on paper, but it's this thing that happens that it has just worked for 21 years. So they know that the first thing you have to leave the door is your ego. So it's a bit like we're all doing this together. We're all on the same page. We're not going to be able to buy a house from this, but there's a lot of love and a lot of good energy, and we all know what role we have to play when we're on stage and when we're on the road. And the people that have kind of not been comfortable with that over the years have left, and all fine. But so we've really got a really good core now that understand it. And there's about 40 members on the books because not everybody can make all the gigs, So if one drummer can't do it, then he does that weekend, changes. So it's very fluid like that. But everybody gets what it is, and that it's a ramshackle train hurtling towards some kind of messed up mystery, but it never falls off the tracks. It's weird.
I saw the cover art of your album Live at the Triffid, and I remember thinking that the Triffid is not a small place, but I imagine when you've got over 20 people, like that's there's not a great deal of room on that stage. Do you have to make peace with bumping into each other?
Yeah, well, the main problem is, and we've fit on some ridiculous. We actually did one gig at a big sound festival in Queensland, where the stage was literally it was 10 feet, 15 feet across, and go. So we had to set up singers, guitarists, horn players, and drummer. So it was we couldn't go wide. We just had to go, and so to give directions, I'm going something like that. That was weird, and we'd never do that again. But the main problem is that trombone players have this thing, and if they're too close to the saxophone players, not only do they hit them, but if you know about brass players, there's always the spit valve. They have to get rid of the spit. Right, so that's where the real issue comes. That's why everyone wears hats.
I knew it. I knew there was some reason. Damn it. I recently interviewed the fella from the Voodoo Glow Skulls. I can't recall which member, but we had a laugh about the various cultural things that arrived around ska. The hats, the two-tone clothing. One of my favorite gags, which I'll probably cut into this, is Brooklyn Nine-Nine referencing ska, him being on TV. Yeah. It's like ska's my lifestyle, and I'll never turn my back on ska. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's strange you say that into culture because there was earlier than that. Do you remember Lisa Nielsen, I think, called Police Squad?
Glee Squad?
Police Squad.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. So it was the forerunner to Flying High.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And in every episode, there's a scene where they try to get information from this shoe shine guy who's got all the information about everything, but he always requires money, right? He
Yeah.
says, "What do you know about what's on the street about this guy?" Goes, "Well, what's it cost you?" And he goes, "Here's $20." Well, he's doing this, and you'll find him tomorrow night at the wharfs doing a delivery of a. So he was kind of the insider. So the one episode where a famous TV presenter went up and said, "What do you know about Scar?" And goes, "Well, what's it worth to you?" He goes, "Well, it's just an ethnic offshoot and everything. It's popular with the people at the time, but we'll never take because it's too exotic for people's tastes." And so it's a whole thing
Yeah.
of So Scar has infiltrated, left, right, and centre with, it keeps on having these different waves. I mean, it started in the '60s. In the '60s, then you got the two-tone thing with, getting dressed up, and that was really what sold me in the first place when I was, a teenager getting into, madness and the specials and just kind of understanding and the British beat as well, understanding like that's cool. I belong to that, but then realizing it, wow, this music I didn't know was actually they're cover songs of what happened in the '60s. And then I went to the '60s and then my whole world opened up, and to the point that I went to Jamaica, to kind of on a pilgrimage to get connected.
It's funny because I never knew the history of it, particularly its connections to Jamaica and stuff like that. I'm primarily a metalhead, so
Yeah,
my
yeah.
my
Well,
knowledge
okay.
of ska was basically, my first exposure to it was, I'm guessing, the impression that I get, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
There you go. That was the third wave
Yeah,
of ska. So it happened in '63 when there's a whole story around the sound systems and the studios and what they were trying to do, and that they used to get records from the States and they couldn't get the records anymore, and they said we'll just make our own records now, but let's make it specifically Jamaican, and then they come up with the ska beat with the big upbeat, um, and then My Boy Lollipop was the first kind of big hit, and then a lot of people moved from West Indies to the UK for work, much like it happened in Australia and everything, because they were part of the Commonwealth. And then the first generation of those people, which went in the '40s and '50s, started the UK two-tone bands because it was English people with Jamaican first generation kids listening to music from Jamaica, tying in with punk, and you've got your classic, new wave, and you got the two tone, right? And then it went to the States, and you had No Doubt and Mighty Boss Tones and Rancid and Fishbone and all those bands. And then you've really got the fourth tone, which is what we're kind of associated with, the Melbourne Ska Orchestra, which is kind of the international ska. So because we being from Melbourne and being a multicultural kind of mix-up. We do a bit of Latin, we do a bit of funk, a bit of cumbia. We kind of mix it up a lot. So, and that's our jam. That's our thing. Is the hybrids. Still with one foot heavily in the we will never we will never disown ska type of thing. So
yanking it
yeah.
up. Yeah, yeah.
And actually, the new single, John Wayne, is very much a combination of the cowboy persona in the mid '60s and early '70s in Jamaica was huge. Right, they really took on that whole. I mean, violence was big there. Gun culture was actually starting to because of the politics in Jamaica. It's quite raw. And the film that they made called Harder They Come was based on that whole cowboy thing. And so there's a big connection with Jamaica, reggae, ska, the cowboy thing. So the new single, John Wayne, that we've got, is kind of like touching a bit of that with the kind of the modern ska, and yet putting it into a setting of today, which is, for me, gun culture in the States where, the John Wayne character of the macho, everything with the gun and everything, like doesn't apply anymore. Yet it's got to the point now that there's guns and there's people, murdering in the streets, and and I kind of have a sympathy for for that persona that's come that's touched the culture so much. Um, do you remember the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
Oh yeah.
recently? Right. So the Leonardo DiCaprio character in that, where he's an old, he's down and out, and he's not relevant anymore, and he's trying to kind of understand his relevance.
Mm.
So it's connected to that as well, So it's got that whole kind of theme. So yeah, that's where that new song's coming from. Yeah, 2024, still kind of grabbing stuff from the old elements, which is what we love to do.
You having released an entire album of TV themes, well done on the Family Guy one, by the way. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Now, look, you're obviously not afraid of a cover, but was there any hesitation in covering Taylor Swift and potentially angering quite possibly the most scary fan base in the world?
Not at all. If anything, it was actually a thing that the radio station in Melbourne were doing to many artists they put out the word, hey, while she's in town, if you want to do a thing. And Joe Camilleri contacted me and said, oh, look, I've been asking this type of thing, but, I've been hearing all the versions and they're really lame. I said, I just want to do, a big fat version and make it sound tough. He said, what are you doing with, do you want to do something with the orchestra? And it was, I just got back from overseas and everything. It was like, oh, I don't know if I can pull everyone together so quickly. But so I made some phone calls and got a template together, and people sent in everything. We didn't actually, we weren't in one room doing it. And so it came together quite quickly. And so it was driven by Joe, that one. But I love working with Joe. And because it came together so quickly, we said, why not? And, and if anything, I don't think we'd be affecting their fan base. We might win a couple of fans.
It was definitely good. I'll give you that. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Does as we're all getting older, does skanking get harder as you get older? Like, do you have to stretch?
Well, it's funny because I certainly need to keep my physical kind of momentum and my, I exercise on a daily basis to make sure that my performance on stage is as good as it can be. And I think I'm getting better actually at learning the point of, because you can go full on sometimes and not sing properly. You just got to get the balance right of, they're like sprints. You're on stage for 2 hours doing sports basically. So, and there will be a time when I'll probably be, wheeled on but for the moment, I feel that this band really energizes me. Being on stage with that many people and playing to audiences, that really connect with is very energizing, and there's a lot of, kind of adrenaline there. If anything, I have to kind of calm that down. So at the moment, no, I feel probably, the fittest I've ever had as far as like ready, match ready. Absolutely, yeah. But the idea is it's a daily basis of keeping yourself, as when you're doing anything that requires a physical thing. You've got to maintain that energy. Otherwise, you're flailing and you get sick.
Yeah, it's true. And particularly when you've got however many people on stage with spit
Exactly.
flying everywhere, like all those dirty horn players.
Exactly.
Oh dear. As again, look, as someone who's, I'm 38 years old. You've been around a little bit longer than me and is hopefully a little bit wiser. Hey, how do you deal with living in such, shall we say, interesting times as this?
Well, I mean, I was actually talking to John Butler about this the other day. It's like more so, how do we apply it, to what we're doing? I mean, we're all, I really get affected by, social injustice, and everything that's happening from, Ukraine to Gaza to John Wayne. The new single is an example of my, sympathy for what's happening in the States. You know, there is a thing where you can say prayers, you can, but I like to kind of offer something. And for me, as I say, John, is that it's music is our thing. Like let's take let's take our let's just do our take on it, how we feel about it. Offering maybe some solutions, or being kind of poetic about it, not just going, this is shit. You kind of need to offer something, like, because it's easy to kind of go, the whole world fucked, and yeah, anybody can do that. But for me, it's a bit like offering something, whether it's a food for thought, and yeah, but it is a pretty crazy time, I appreciate the life that I've got and where I live, and the sense of, really, in compared to being in many places around the world. I consider myself, very lucky, having my studio around me, being able to make music, and building that up, and there's no real kind of major dramas, that I have to deal with here on a daily basis. I've still got food and shelter and those basic things, and I appreciate that. I have a lot of gratitude on that level, and so. But there is, I feel, a lot of empathy and to things that are happening overseas, and I often, talk about, positivity and perception of the day, and you are what you think, as general rhetoric of my day-to-day kind of conversations. But as I was saying to John, I do ask the question: how does that all apply if I'm sitting in a room in Gaza and my family's getting bombed on? How do I apply that gratitude? And so it's kind of yeah, it is difficult to get my kind of head around it. But all I can do is is write songs. There's a song I'm writing at the moment called "Walls of Jericho," about the biblical situation there, which is very much kind of what's happening. It's mimicking itself in, like, this is your promised land. So regardless of who's in the way, women, children, everything, get rid of them because they're not valid. And it says it in the Bible. And God told Joshua to do this. And it's kind of mimicking itself in this day and age. And so I'm trying to kind of meld those two things together to see how archaic and how non-relevant that is, and how using those bases for killing other people has got any bearing whatsoever in this day and age of humanity. We've advanced so much technologically and everything, but we're still kind of teenagers in the way that we deal with each other. So that's always a concern. And I have conversations with my children about that, because, when I'm gone, they'll be, what they can do about that. But it's certainly not black and white. And I don't, offer any kind of immediate solutions, only to, love is the answer. What was the question? That's the, if we kind of use that as a basic thing, then none of this would be happening, because we're all living on this planet. It's the fact that we're alive on this planet, hurtling through space, orbiting around the sun, here for 80 or 90 years, if we're lucky. If you kind of just go back and go, wow, then let's actually kind of, let's chill a bit, people,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I'm coming from, really. Sorry about the ramble, but yeah.
No, that's totally. I think it was who was he? William Shatner. When he got to go into space, and he had this profound moment of sadness when he was looking down on the planet, and he was just like, "This is it. That's
Yeah,
And it's a perspective that only people who've gone to space will ever understand, of looking down on it and just seeing how finite it actually is. It's like, this is
yeah,
literally it, the entire span of human history and all the hundreds of billions of people who
yeah,
have ever lived.
exactly.
This little thing.
Yeah. And it's the only place that we can walk around without, regardless of any other planet, without assistance to breathe.
Mm,
Right?
yeah.
So it's gold. It's gold in the essence, in the sense of so much that we don't kind of. It's like humanity that still doesn't get it, And I think there is definitely a building of that thought process. And, people mention it's, like another dimension or something, but there is a sense of that's growing, but nowhere near as fast as it should. I mean, I couldn't believe when Russia invaded Ukraine, that it's everything that we thought we learned from World War II and all the other things that it's kind of just it's like it's hand to hand combat again. It's all happening. It's like wow. It's like it's I was actually startled at humanity that this was allowed to happen. Yet and then you learn all about stuff with Gaza and all that and everything, and go back to the history and everything. Go, wow, this has been happening underneath our watch and not even really knowing. So thankfully, with the information age, more people are kind of getting to know, at least to know the truth, even though there's a lot of untruths in that world. But and I think that hopefully will accelerate our process of fixing all this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to see what things are going to look like when my kids are in
Yeah,
their 30s. So who knows?
yeah.
This has been a really great chat. Thank you very much for your time.
No
Um,
worries, brother.
and yeah, man, all the best for the
Yeah,
tour.
that's good. Yeah, they're looking forward to the tour. It's good, great to go out on the road. And this has been a really concise tour as far as the imagery, the song, the team. It's not the best time to be touring as far as people don't buy tickets very readily anymore. They kind of wait till the last minute, and that makes it difficult for a 20-piece band. So we urge people to try to buy the tickets early, because that's a lot of festivals fell over last year simply because people didn't want to buy the tickets early and they couldn't get a gauge of what was happening and had to cancel them. I mean, Splendor in the Grass is a great example.
Mm.
So we urge people to, if you're into the band, we'll promise you a great show. Practically give you a money back guarantee. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Awesome, mate. All right. Good to see you again. And
no worries, brother. Thanks for the chat.